We are preparing one of the important government decisions on small enterprises, investment for small enterprises by the end of this year, so that we can make sure we can give the necessary subsidies and helps to the small and medium enterprises for medium and small projects of investments rather than concentrating on the big ones solely. You can imagine, in terms of institutional resources, political authorizations, I'm talking political economy now, it's really a lot. It's really a lot. And this is why it didn't happen in the past. Labor Court, it's since 2004. And law on strikes, it's since 1960. So this is why it's hard. But we needed also to make sure that the feasibility of the policies we would like to implement a little bit later on can be tested in appropriate ways. And we launched a couple of programs on the active policies this time. So the first program we launched, because we were just getting out from COVID-19, was a program called Awrash, which provided jobs for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, to 100,000 people in 2022. And we managed to deliver this program on the ground in a new generation of partnerships between the central government and the local bodies, elected bodies, local government. And it worked, and I can tell you it's a small miracle, because in this program we tested a unique approach to tackle needs that Mr. Government mentioned in his speech. 70% of those who benefited from Awrash have absolutely no diploma. Absolutely no diploma. They didn't even finish high school. 30% nearly are women, which was extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Because 60% of these people are from the rural areas. And the way the committees were crafted and the work was done and the preparation, etc., the projects selected, etc., it was not easy to make all the local players understand and get to stick to objectives in terms of women's jobs. Of course, 30% is not our ambition. The second edition of this program, we tried to go more deeper into the changes. So we kept an objective of 100,000 for 2023, but we also wanted to work and work a little bit more on the intermediation for long-term jobs. And we launched a sub-program for 50,000 people with a job of more than 1 year. And we're targeting the needs. So we coupled this with a couple of measures. I don't want to get into the details. But the idea is to tell you that we managed to gather 130 companies in the country who are now recruiting 50,000 people. They've already started from now to the end of the year, according to real needs they have. So the takeaway from this are 2 things. First of all, when you show sufficient political will to the economic players, somehow you'll have the return of the benefit. Second, you need absolutely in these active policies, programs, portfolio of programs, you need to tackle the real issues and to make sure the administrative cost is the lowest possible. The number of layers, the way you digitalize the process needs to be sufficiently attractive so that they can adhere to the measure. I didn't code the measures because I know that it's not what we're expected to do now, but the idea is to tell you that this is how we're trying to frame the policy now. I want to grab the attention of the audience to 1 or 2 last things. One of them, of course, is the way employment and labor are or what's the governance in the country. We didn't manage for the last decade to implement a real governance for labor. There are a bunch of committees that need to meet at the ministerial level, at the regional level, at the local level, but they didn't meet. Productive ministries should have presented their objectives in terms of employment targets, etc., by sector, by locality, etc. And we believe, and this is what we're working on, by the occasion of the new labor code, we're working on a new simplified governance organization that helps the key players have the real decision at the level, and not just coordinating policies, which, as you know, has its own limit.
In 2008, there was a paper on the impact of immigration on the Phillips curve, and on inflation, and on job creation. And I thought it was quite interesting because, and they took the case of Spain, which is, a country very close to Morocco. And I thought it was interesting because basically the point that was made is that immigration had a very positive impact on the job market. There was a lowering of 15% of unemployment in Spain in that paper. That's what they were arguing anyway. The gentleman, if my memory serves me well, was called this Samuel Bentolila, something like that. So, but anyway, it would be good. I'm sure that Roberta will look up that particular piece. And that's interesting because, at a time when everybody now is jumping up and down on the whole issue of migration and immigration, and when walls are being raised, and people are talking about Fortress Europe, there's one example where, immigration can actually have a very positive impact on unemployment in a particular country, in a relatively small economy. Something to think about. This is one issue I wanted to put on the table. Another issue that, has been with us for quite some time, and I remember when I was here in Morocco, the Moroccan government was launching its own industrial policy. And at the time, to show you that even the World Bank can be totally wrong, at the time, our economists were saying, oh, industrial policies will not work in Morocco. You should not go that way. You should leave it to the markets. And I remember at the time, the Minister of, I think it was of Industry, was basically rejecting outright our recipes and saying we are moving ahead with industrial policies in Morocco. As we know, industrial policies, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what's interesting is that in Morocco, to a large extent, these have worked. So I'm wondering whether this is also another conversation that we should be having in this kind of forum. Let's put that on the table again. Let's see whether, we can squeeze something out of that Moroccan experience. Another issue that we are suffering from in the Middle East and North Africa, and that is the role of the state in the economy. This has been a mantra of mine for the last 5 and some years as a vice president for this great region, and I guess will be for the foreseeable future. The role of the state in the economy in our countries is heavy, is overwhelming, is counterproductive, and it is basically not creating jobs. So when we talk about the low growth and low employment in our countries, the role of the state in the economy is part and parcel of that issue. So how can we, try to open even more doors to the private sector, give more oxygen to the private sector, to private entrepreneurs? How can we get away from this curse, self-inflicted, of legislative inflation? Every time we have an issue, we go around and we suggest a law. And we have this stratification and inflation of laws that is really becoming very counterproductive. Looking at Morocco, but maybe Morocco is the least impacted. But if you go east, it is incredible, the level of legislative creativity that we see happening. And I give you 2 examples. public-private partnership laws, PPP laws. In a number of cases, in a number of countries, before the PPP law was adopted, we had public-private partnerships, we had concessions, we had contracts to move ahead with particular venture. As soon as that public PPP law was adopted, actually, what we saw is raised walls and more bureaucracy and less comfort.